The Heart Shell, Episode 0, The Story of Tenebris. Little Princess Celestia and Luna lay down on the palace carpet, bored out of their minds. Their parents had gone out for the day, but they were stuck with nothing to do. Luna watched the hours go by on one of the clocks. I think by then she was about 4 or 5 years of age. Celestia, who was 11 or 12 years of age, stared at the ceiling and watched the light flicker. How could they possibly end their boredom?
This is so boring!
Little Luna complained, finally breaking the silence.
We need to do something. I don't think the day can go on for much longer.
But we were told to stay here whilst our parents were out, Luna's big sister replied, getting up from her lying position on the carpet. I don't think it would be too long until they return.
Too long? Too long? That's like forever!
Luna complained again, burying her head into the carpet in frustration and muffling her moans. It was then when Tia had an idea come up. Maybe we can sneak out for just a little while.
A little while? I don't know. What if our parents return and we're not back?
That won't be likely. Little Luna put on a thinking face. Then she grinned widely.
Yay! Let's go and do something!
Luna bounced around excitedly. Tia just rolled her eyes. Of course, Tia said, after Luna's bouncing had stopped. The two sisters headed for the door. There were no guards stopping them from leaving the castle grounds. That seemed pretty suspicious, but the princesses couldn't care less. They laughed away as they headed into the sunshine. The two foals headed towards Canterlot. Back then, it was pretty different. We're talking about more than 1,000 years. Things seemed a bit more medieval at this time. The sun was shining bright through their manes, and the ponies greeted them as they went past. Luna was still excited about going out. She was following close behind her big sister, who was figuring out where they should go. Tia stopped by a craft shop. It seemed to be open. It was wooden and had all kinds of handiwork inside. Then something caught her attention. Hey, why don't we just make something? She suggested.
Make something? Like a toy?
Luna's excitement rose. Sure, and to make it even more fun, we'll try making it with one of the toughest type of material available.
Wood?
Well, wood is pretty tough, but I was thinking of using clay.
Wouldn't clay be easier to use anyway?
But the fun is that we get to make it into whatever we want. Then have fun of trying to do it before it dries. The two fillies stepped inside the store. It was being run by an old-looking mare. It looked like she was carving things out of wood for years, or even decades. The princesses saw all of the sculptures around them, clocks, gnomes, but one thing still grabbed Tia's attention, some unused clay just lying beside the counter. Oh my, what can I do for you, dears? The mare looked down at the princesses and asked them.
That lump of clay, please.
Luna bounced. The mare carried the lump of clay and checked its price. It was about 5 bits. Tia had this, and the ponies happily left the store. Now they had something else to cure their boredom. They had a toy to make. Hours had passed. Tia and Luna were experimenting with shapes using their magic. Unicorns and alicorns had an advantage with carving things with detailed precision. In the end, the shape was kind of unusual. They couldn't decide what it looked like.
It looks like a cat,
Luna commented. It looks more like a pony, Tia replied. We didn't really sketch a cat tail. Do you want this to be a cat?
I don't know, sis.
Tia placed the clay sculpture down. Tell you what, she began. How about we take turns with making this toy? I'll start with the shape. Tia carved a bit more into the sculpture. Amazing, Luna. There, now it looks like a pony.
Yay! Now what am I deciding?
Luna asked. You get to choose the color. What do you want it?
Black. We'll make it black.
Okay then. It was your role after all. The princesses levitated some paintbrushes and began their work. They let that to dry and were trying to figure out what next.
It looks a little bland,
Luna commented, a bit disappointed. I know, Tia giggled. It needs a face. Tia grabbed the white paint and started to work on what the outline would look like. The face itself was 2 white dots for eyes, a cute little nose, and a mouth.
It looks so cute!
Luna smiled. Now it's your turn.
Huh. What am I deciding?
What do you think we should call this toy? Luna thought about it. Then it came to her.
Tenebris.
She smiled. Tia just sat there confused.
You know, the pony Latin word for darkness, 'cause she's dark-colored.
I thought it was pronounced Tenebris, with an S.
Tenebris sounds cuter.
Okay then, Tenebris with a silent S it is. The princesses rejoiced. In their spare time, they had created something completely from scratch and imagination. As the days passed, their parents left the castle more often, and the princesses were allowed to leave the castle as much as they wished. But as time went by, the ponies around them began to get freaked out about it. The toy, that is. About 5 years later, something happened that would change the princesses' lives forever. Luna was now 10 years old and playing outside. She was playing alongside Tenebris, who was still as solid as a rock. Since she wasn't a hollow figure, she wasn't that easy to break unless it was from a really high distance. Luna was happily playing with a ball whilst her sister, now around 16 or 17, was working on her chemistry. She had been learning more about science and other forms of magic and potion making. Everything was going quite well for her, up until Luna accidentally threw Tenebris into the lab itself and almost crashed everything. Tia was in utter shock. Not only was her experiment ruined, but the lab was a total mess.
Tia, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Are you hurt?
Luna asked as she came rushing in. Yes, I'm fine, Luna. But this experimental spell took me hours to complete.
What was the spell?
I was trying to bring inanimate objects to life, like this apple. Luna looked at the apple with curiosity. Nothing was happening. But Tia noticed something. The potion in question had its casing broken in the crash, meaning it must have brought something to life, if it was successful anyway. Then, one thing occurred to both of them. Tenebris was missing. They started their search, calling its name, but it was an inanimate object, so it wasn't likely to respond. That's pretty much the same as calling out for a book you've just lost.
I'm under here!
A voice called. The princesses froze. To their knowledge, they should be the only ones in the chemistry lab. Who's there? Tia asked, with a slight fear in her voice.
Yeah, come on, show yourself. We're princesses, you know, and we're not afraid to use our royal guards on you.
Luna called out. This isn't funny, Tia said again. Show yourself now.
Okay then, but I still need to figure out how to walk.
The princess's confusion led them to a small pony underneath one of the tables. Tia approached it and saw who it was. Tenebris? Tia exclaimed. You're alive? Tenebris looked at her arms and how they moved. She was quite amazed. Then she smiled.
I am alive. I can talk, walk, fly, and use magic.
Tenebris came out from under her hiding place and showed herself. She was slightly smaller than Luna. She was wobbling for a few steps, but the princesses slowly helped her regain her balance.
This is so cool. You're like another sister.
Luna exclaimed in excitement.
I am?
Tenebris asked.
I mean, I have been with you for 5 years already, listening to every word and learning more about you. It's like we are a family.
And I have learned that that potion worked, Tia added.
Can we introduce Tenebris to Mom and Dad, can we, sis?
Luna asked.
Yeah, can we?
Tenebris asked also. Of course we can, Tia confirmed.
Yay!
Luna and Tenebris synced. Tia found it quite adorable how Luna now had a little sister of her own, and better, Tenebris was happily accepted into the family by the rulers of Equestria, Tia and Luna's parents. Sometime later, Tenebris had her first taste of food. They went over to a bakery to try some foods out. Something grabbed Tenebris' attention. Some delicious chocolate cupcakes. The stallion running the bakery gave a couple of cupcakes to Tenebris for her to try. He didn't know that this filly was once a toy carved from clay. No pony in Canterlot did, which definitely gave a different tone than when she was just a toy. When she took a bite, she was immediately in heaven. Tenebrae loved them, every bit of flavor that came with it. The princesses rejoiced. It seemed like their lives were going to be good like this forever. Until 1 year later, everything changed. Tenebrae, Luna, and Tia were off to grab some food from the bakery again. They did that every so often to treat Tenebrae. But something was a little bit off. In the morning, Tenebrae couldn't eat anything. She said that she was full, but the other princesses were indeed starving. It was still the morning, and Tenebrae hadn't eaten anything, so their outing wasn't as cheerful as they would have hoped. It was Tia and Luna's mission to make sure Tenebrae wasn't low on blood sugar. They had arrived at the bakery. Tenebrae just stared at the cupcake. "I'm not hungry," was her answer, as she slid the plate from her view. "You must be," Tia objected, concerned. "You haven't eaten anything at all."
Maybe she's sick, sis.
Luna suggested. "Come to think of it, my stomach does feel a tad funny today. Maybe I don't feel well," Tenebrae confirmed.
Maybe you should head back to the castle. The nurses will be there to fix you up.
Luna suggested. Suddenly, the unthinkable happened. Black smoke began to spread out from the baker as he fell on the ground in pain. "Sir, are you all right?" Tia rushed over to the baker in worry. Luna stayed behind to check on Tenebrae. The black smoke went inside her and it tingled her slightly. The baker was uttering things that the princesses couldn't hear, but he was holding back tears. Tia and Luna panicked. What had just happened? Tenebrae still lay in Luna's arms, and still limp. Finally, the baker snapped out of it and got up from the ground. "Are you sure you're all right?" "I'm not sure what happened there, but thank you both dearly for your concern," the baker smiled.
Are you sure we should have called the ambulance? You almost had an emotional breakdown.
Luna replied. "No, I think I'll be fine," the baker replied back as he went back to sorting bread. "But I'm not too sure about your friend. If I were you, I would take her to see some medical help." "He's right," Tia agreed. "This is very unusual."
It's even stranger that the black smoke coming from the baker went into her own body.
Luna replied. "What?" Tia wasn't out of shock. Tenebrae was starting to wake up. "Tenebrae, are you okay? Are you hurt?"
I'm fine. I feel full again, but my stomach has stopped acting up."
The princesses looked at each other.
But didn't you have anything to eat? Are you sure you're fine?
Luna asked.
"I don't know, but I feel full, despite not eating anything physical."
Tenebrae answered, putting her hoof to her head.
Okay then, but tell us if you're feeling sick again, okay?
"Yeah, I will,"
Tenebrae replied, but it didn't help that every pony that went past her was experiencing the same feeling the baker had, black smoke coming out of them and making their way into Tenebrae somehow.
It's getting worse. What should we do?
Luna asked. "I know a zebra that might be able to help us," Tia replied. "Zelina lives not too far from here. She might figure out what's wrong with Tenebrae. Whatever it isn't a normal sickness." Tenebrae looked sadly back at the ponies lying on the ground in pain. She was indeed at fault, but she didn't know what was causing it.
"I don't want to do this,"
she said to herself.
"I don't want to make other ponies sad."
The princesses arrived at their destination. It was a huge tree near the edge of Canterlot. Zelina was the only zebra living in Canterlot, so it was their best shot. They knocked on the door. The zebra happily answered it. Zelina had her stripes and mane shaped like nurses' crosses. That hair was tied up in a bun. She wore a blue poncho around her.
"Well, if it isn't the princess. You seem like you're distressed,"
Zelina replied as she answered the door. "Please excuse us, Zelina," Tia replied back.
Our sister Tenebris is sick with something. We don't know what it is.
Luna continued.
"Come over here, my child, and I will detect the illness wild."
Zelina spoke to Tenebrae. Tenebrae trotted over to the zebra. Zelina looked around the filly and tried to see what was wrong.
She looks fine to me. Are you sure there's something wrong with Tenebris?
Zelina asked again.
Tell her, sis.
Luna gestured.
Well, the last time I ate physical food was last night at dinner. Since then, I've been feeling full and I don't know why. Then, when I was at the bakery, some black smoke came from the baker and went inside me. That happened to every other pony that went past me.
Tenebris told Zelina. Zelina gasped in shock. Tia and Luna got the conclusion that the zebra had figured something out. You figured it out? Tia asked.
It seems as though I have found the source. What an illness to befall such a little horse.
Zelina replied.
What is it? Am I sick?
Tenebris freaked out.
You have adopted some strange magic here. That is what I most fear. Not just an illness, but a curse. And I'm afraid it will only get worse.
So what's going to happen to me? What is that black smoke flowing inside me?
Looking inside, I see that you have consumed a monstrosity. If I only must be brief, the food that you crave is pony's grief.
The princesses gasped in shock. So what you're saying is that Tenebris eats grief? Tia asked.
That's just horrible.
Luna replied. Tenebris only looked at the ground in worry. Is there a cure? Tia asked again.
There is no known cure for Tenebris, for this is her fate, her destiny. It may seem that this is dark, but it shows in her cutie mark.
Zelina pointed out. Tenebris looked at her flank. There was indeed a mark there, a grey shadow with sad white eyes.
Is this another symptom?
Tenebris panicked. No, Tia replied, fear in her voice. A cutie mark is something that every pony gets when they find their special talent. It stays with them permanently. It seems like your special talent is collecting grief.
You mean I'm stuck doing this for the rest of my life? I don't want to make other ponies miserable.
Tenebris teared up.
I don't want this!
I'm sorry, but it is unchanged. I know what you're experiencing is strange, but in time your skills will bloom and flower. I know you'll make good use of this power.
Zelina accepted.
But I don't want this power!
The tree house rocketed out of control. It was happening again. Black smoke came out of Zelina and went inside Tenebris. She was still in shock. When the earthquake had stopped, Tia and Luna held Zelina and looked at Tenebris in worry. Tenebris backed away slowly, her body shaking in fear.
I'm sorry,
Tenebris choked.
I didn't mean to.
Tenebris, what's happening to you? Tia asked, worried. Tenebris' eyes filled with tears as she stormed out of the treehouse. She ran all the way back to the castle and crashed on her bed. She sobbed into a pillow. She was like this for hours. She couldn't believe it. She was stuck absorbing grief from the other ponies forever. Sooner or later, she could also hurt the princesses. She didn't know what to do. Tia and Luna returned to the castle. They were both frightened and scared for their sister. She had indeed been cursed, but how it happened still remained a mystery. Was it how they brought her to life? Was there a negative side effect? Or was it just the design of her that made her this way? They had no idea. Zelina didn't say that much. What was Tenebris? The princesses opened the door to see a sad Tenebris, burying her face into a pillow. Tenebris, may we come in? Tia asked. Tenebris opened her eyes to see her fearful sisters. She sighed.
But what if I hurt you like I hurt every other pony in my reach?
Tenebris sadly asked back.
We'll make sure that doesn't happen again, sister.
Luna replied. The two princesses went to either side of Tenebris on her bed. Tenebris, you can tell us anything. We're your family, Tia responded, breaking the brief silence. Tenebris sighed again.
This power, this ability to fade off grief from every pony around me. I know Zelina says I can make good use of it, but what if I can't? What if it gets out of control, and every pony starts hating me? What if you two start hating me?
We would never hate you.
Luna objected. And we won't abandon you when you are in need. I'll try and research a cure or something to return you back to normal. Tia replied back to Tenebris.
But Selena said that it's permanent. What if there isn't a cure? What if I'm like this forever?
Tenebris asked. The princesses looked at each other. Tenebris could be right. There might not be a way to break away the curse. No way whatsoever. But that still didn't stop them from at least trying. Don't worry, Tenebris. We'll find a way to rid you of this curse if it's the last thing we do, Tia proclaimed.
Really?
Tenebris sniffed.
Of course. Sisters stick together.
Luna announced. Tenebris smiled and hugged her sisters.
Thank you. I couldn't think of any better sisters than you two. I know you'll find a cure to this.
But as sure as they were, Tia especially was starting to doubt herself. But that didn't stop them from trying. Days had passed. Tia was experimenting over and over with various potions and vials, but nothing seemed to be working. Every pony that wasn't affected by Tenebris was soon affected. It didn't seem too bad when it first began, but Tenebris was getting bigger and bigger, and the more Tenebris consumed, the longer victims were put in that uncomfortable trance. Not just a few seconds, but some lasted a few minutes or hours. But it wasn't just the ponies outside Candlelight. Ponies within the castle were affected by Tenebris' curse. Guards, servants, cooks, and dressmakers. Tia and Luna began to worry. 1 month had passed, and Tenebris was now bigger than Luna was. It got even worse from there. Some ponies were falling unconscious from the trauma in their minds. Nurses had tried treating them as best they could. Tia and Luna sadly looked at the victims in the hospital wing affected by Tenebris' magic, then turned away. They were the only ones that hadn't been affected yet, besides their parents who were visiting Saddle Arabia for the week. But how did they know that they hadn't been affected too?
I hate this, sister. I really hate this. Innocent ponies are getting hurt, and we can't do anything to stop it.
Luna complained. I know, Luna, but we've tried everything. There's nothing we can do about it. Tenebris has grown out of control, Tia replied.
You don't think that she'd affect us?
Tia paused. It is a possibility that she might, she replied sadly.
What will happen if she does?
Luna asked. We'll see, Luna. We'll see. Tenebris was in an empty room. It was empty now that she had consumed grief from the guards. She kept growing and growing. She had consumed so much grief that her original clay body had transformed into thick smoke. She had gotten used to this power and got better at it. Something that she once didn't want was now something she couldn't live without. She wanted more. It was like a painful addiction. Tenebris was becoming more and more insane. She was less like a pony and more like a monster. She was smiling and laughing maniacally. Suddenly, the princesses burst through the doors. Tenebris swiftly turned her head.
Tenebris, you must stop this!
Luna cried out.
Think about the ponies you're harming, your friends, your family. There are many of them have lost consequences because of your stupid powers.
Tenebris just looked at them. She hardly showed any fear in her expression, mainly delight.
Stupid? You think my powers are stupid?
Tenebris smiled, walking slowly closer to them.
These powers have gotten me everything I wanted. Respect and treasures beyond my wildest dreams. I am invincible. Not even the guards could stop me.
Tia and Luna gasped in horror at the unconscious guards that lay on the ground. Tenebris, you must stop! What you're doing is wrong! This power is consuming you! You're enjoying it way too much! You have lost all of your sanity! Tia argued.
Yes, I may have lost that, but you have to understand. This is my life now. This is what I am. You know very well that I'm not a pony. But do you want to know what I am?
What? A monster?
Luna asked, terrified.
No, a dollar,
Tenebris corrected.
I am the only one of my kind, I believe. I need grief to survive, and I'm always hungry for more.
Well, whatever you are, I know something you're not. Our sister!
Luna yelled. Luna! Was Tia's response. Tenebrae only grinned as she walked closer to the Moon Princess.
Well, is that the way you're going to be? Succumbing to all the nonsense? What every pony else calls me? I thought you two could help me, but it seems you're just as useless as everyone else.
Tenebrae replied.
But there is still one way you can help me. By giving me your power.
And just like that, black smoke came from Luna, who fell on the ground in pain. Tia attempted to charge towards Tenebrae, but found herself under the same spell. But suddenly, Tenebrae's expression changed. She remembered the fun time she and her sisters had together, before she turned into a different creature. This smoky figure took some steps back. She was trembling. It was like the old Tenebrae had come back. She had snapped out of her crazy breakthrough.
What am I doing?
Tenebrae asked herself as she backed towards the door. She looked at the kingdom and how it had fallen, not literally yet, but metaphorically in her mind. Tenebrae turned to the princesses who were still on the ground.
I didn't mean to. Are you okay?
Miraculously, the princesses got up, but their expressions had changed. They could finally feel what every pony else felt. Nothing but cruel emptiness. Tenebrae tried to smile, but it wasn't working. There was no happiness here. Tenebrae, your powers have gotten out of control. I don't think we have any choice. You are no longer a pony. Tia spoke in her royal voice. You are hereby banished out of Equestria. Tenebrae was in complete and utter shock. She didn't know how to react.
But you said that you could help me. I don't know what came over me. I know I'll get better at these powers. I won't hurt you again.
Tenebrae argued, trembling. My decision has already been made, Tenebrae. I know we really wanted to help you, but as you said, there's nothing more we can do for you. Goodbye. Tenebrae's heart had sunk. Her own sisters were banishing her. Her sadness turned into fury.
Fine, banish me. Do whatever you want, but that won't change the past. I'm a menace. Maybe it is a good idea that I leave, where my powers won't harm you again. Goodbye, sisters.
And those were her last words. Tenebrae was gone, far away where she couldn't be spotted. A dark place where her powers could be of use. She had created this place herself with her magic. It was called the Demon Caves. They were endless caverns of grief and despair. She spent many years in this large area of solitude. Almost 10 years had passed since she had been banished by her sisters, and she had perfected her living style. Using her magic, she created friends. They were replicas of ponies she had taken grief from. She also gave these creatures a name, Demon Foals. Should she have gone back?
Tenebrae!
A voice called out. Tenebrae's ears perked up. Who was it? It sounded familiar, but at the same time, completely different. The shadow emerged. Celestia. Her mane was different now. Instead of pink, it was colored with green, blue, and indigo as well. And she was much taller than Tenebrae. Tia? Tenebrae was shocked. Then she went back to her anger. What are you doing here?
Tenebrae, can you please hear me out?
Celestia insisted. Why should I? You banished me, remember? Maybe you don't, since it was 10 years ago, and much has changed since then, Tenebrae argued. I have grown used to a life of solitude and...
I need your help.
You need my help. What? Tenebrae gasped. Why? My power was harming Candela's citizens. You were better without me.
Well, yes, but as you said, much has changed since then. The thing is, Equestria is in danger.
Tenebrae wasn't surprised at first.
Because of me, I bet.
Tenebrae mumbled.
Actually, no.
Celestia replied.
We are under attack by these mutants called Canims.
Tenebrae looked at her sister in shock.
Canims?
Tenebrae asked under her breath.
What are they?
They are hybrids of wolves and dragons. Their king, Sephiros, had declared war on us because of the amount of fresh land we have. With the size of his army, I'm not sure that we can defeat him by ourselves. We need your help.
Tenebrae backed away in fright and anger.
But my power is dangerous to Equestria.
How do you know things won't go bad again? It's been 10 years, sister. Surely you have learned to control your abilities by now.
Tenebrae thought about it. Then she had an idea.
Maybe I can help you.
Was her response.
Really?
Celestia asked.
Watch this.
Tenebrae used her magic to conjure up a demon foal. Celestia was amazed by this.
How are you doing that?
Celestia asked.
It's just part of my magic, I guess.
Tenebrae responded.
And I can create more. I'm thinking that I can create a whole army to fight against these Canaans. And they aren't normal ponies. They're invisible beings.
It was then when Celestia began to have second thoughts.
Are you sure you can control them? I know you've been here for 10 years, but that doesn't mean—
I can control them, Tia. I want to do everything I can to help you. Equestria is in danger, and I want to be there for you and help you. I want to believe that Zero was right, that I could use my powers for good. Please, give me another chance.
Celestia sensed a great change in Tenebrae. She did want to be forgiven for her past crimes. But how'd she know she could trust her? Although she had no other alternative, Tenebrae was her only option.
All right, I will trust you with your plan.
Celestia began.
On one condition.
What is that?
If your plan succeeds and we win, then you can return home with us.
Really? You mean it?
Tenebrae was excited by this. However, Celestia did have more she wanted to say.
But if your demon foes are proven evil or fight against us, then I'll have no choice but to banish you for good.
Tenebrae was thinking long and hard about this. It was filled with pressure, but she indeed had her mind made up.
Deal,
was her answer.
Are you sure? Are you willing to accept the consequences if your plan fails?
Of course, but I am positive that it will work. You can count on me.
They formed a hug. Tenebrae was willing to accept the punishment if her plan failed. But on the other hoof, she could stay with the princesses again. It had been so long. She had hoped for a day like this. The king and his minions drew closer and closer. There was more of them than they thought. Tenebrae was more than ready to conjure up her creations and attack at will. The war had begun. Soldiers charged towards the mutant Canaans. Many were already injured from one swipe. It was time to unleash the secret weapon, Tenebrae's demon foals. She conjured them up one by one and sent them to attack. Then things started to turn around, only for it to get much worse. The demon foals were somehow no longer in Tenebrae's control. She panicked. The smoky beings chose to side with the Canaans and began to attack. This time, entire armies of soldiers were being wiped out and killed instantly.
Tenebrae, what did you do?
Celestia asked, panicked.
You said that your creations could help us.
I did. Usually they are in my control, Tenebrae replied, then came to realization. Oh no. Because they're not in the demon caves, I can't control them.
What?
Celestia exclaimed.
Is that true?
Luna replied. Tenebrae sadly nodded.
But maybe with my magic, I'll try to figure out a way to control them.
Okay, do it as quickly as you can,
Celestia replied.
Luna and I will try to figure out another way to get rid of them for good.
The two princesses headed towards the forbidden area of the library, where they searched very quickly for a spell strong enough to repel them. Then, Celestia had found something and showed the answer to her confused sister.
A sonic rainbow?
Luna asked.
But no pony alive is able to perform such an impossible task.
It does say that only a pony who is born to do it will have no problem,
Celestia replied.
But you're right, no pony alive has this ability. The only one who could do it was Hurika, but she was just a myth.
So, who should perform it then?
I might be able to.
Are you sure? It seems like a lot of power, even for you.
I can perform it once. I have enough power to do that.
Luna sighed.
Good luck, Celestia. You only have one chance at this.
I know.
Celestia and Luna left the library and headed back to the balcony where Tenebrae was, still trying to control them.
Oh, Celestia, thank goodness. Do you have a plan?
Tenebrae asked. Celestia took a deep breath and took flight, not answering Tenebrae's question.
Celestia?
The princess flew up to the top of the sky. Then she soared downwards at a very fast speed. When she was almost at the bottom, the phenomenon was produced. She had performed a sonic rainboom successfully. The blast had blown all the Canems and demon balls away, but it also blew something else. Tenebris. According to the book, this sonic rainboom would have peace for 1,000 years, and the Canems wouldn't have another chance to attack again. Tenebris got up from the ground. She was just outside Equestrian borders. When she opened her eyes, she had completely changed. Her eyes were now red, with white and black insides, and her cutie mark had completely vanished. She tried to go back to Equestria, only to be repelled by a magical invisible force field. Then she knew it. She was banished. Probably for a very, very long time. Tenebris gently wept on the cold grass, but her sadness didn't last for long. Anger had now entered her heart. "Let this be known, Celestia and Luna," she began. "I will be back, and when I am, I swear to take revenge on the next pony to perform this impossible act. I don't care how long it takes, maybe 1,000 to 10,000 years, but someday, that individual will meet her end."